Jeshua, the early years. Joy, Part 2. Now we begin. And yet once again I say unto you that it is with great joy that I come forth to abide with you. And often have I said that. And yet have you truly sought to comprehend what those words mean? That it is in joy that I come forth to abide with you. And if I come in this rather particular way to abide with you, so that your body can sit there, and this body, temporarily borrowed, can sit here, and I can come and abide with you in this manner, rest assured that I come always with joy to abide with you where you really are. You do not abide within a body. The body, again, arises within a field that can be called your consciousness. It is born out of your desire, your expectation, your perception that have been built up and built up and built up. And one of those perceptions is indeed that you are within the body. But you are not. Therefore, I come not to abide with the body, but I come forth to abide with that great ray of light that you are, that shines forever beyond the body and beyond all worlds. It is to that great ray of light that I speak, and with that great ray of light that I commune. And the process of awakening, the process of the atonement, is not just some mental gymnastics in which you try to exercise certain statements of what you say. Well, good, I'm one with God. It doesn't quite feel that way, but I believe it anyway. That is where it begins. But the atonement is indeed completed when the whole sense of identity that you carry is no longer in any way, shape, or form limited to the space and volume of the body. There isn't even a trace of identification with it, save that you acknowledge that you have allowed it to arise within the field of light you are. And it serves no other purpose, save to be a means by which you communicate the light that you are into this plane of density and to this world of yours. If this were not true, it would mean that you are not as God, our Holy Father, has created you to be. And I have said many times in many ways that God is but one creation, His holy and precious child, His Son, if you will, that which is the offspring of the mind of God. And that which is an offspring of light, that is made in the image of light, can only be light, filled with wisdom, filled with creativity, filled with joy. Therefore I come forth in joy, because joy is that in which I abide eternally. And I come forth to abide with you. Not the body that you think you are, not the body that you think you are in, but I come forth to abide with that great ray of light that outshines all worlds and is forever one with me since before the foundation of all worlds. And the miracle that allows the atonement to be born on earth, which means in the body, even as it is already completed in heaven. The miracle that allows that it is the simplicity of your willingness to set aside constantly everything about what you believe that you are, so that you can relearn the truth. And if I were to come to you and speak to you as though you were a body, and if I were to acquiesce to your insistence that you are just this form, that you are just your hurts, that you are just your limitations, if I were to come and abide with that, there could be no such thing as a miracle. For it would mean that both of us have gotten caught up in the insanity of an illusion. Precious friends, I abide only with, and speak only to, the great ray of light that you are, that outshines every limitation that you believe exists in and as your life. And it is to that ray of light that I gently whisper, Awaken, awaken from sleep and put away the things of dreams, put away fears and put away doubts, and begin instead to focus the whole of your attention on light and on joy. And why? If this world has been made in error, and I assure you that it has, and if the world is diametrically opposed to the truth of the kingdom of heaven, it must then follow that the perceptions and beliefs that have made this world are indeed the opposite of a knowledge that you can find in the kingdom of heaven. The world is made of fear. The word is made of illusions. The world is made of limitation. That is the world that you have taken to be real, and therefore have allowed it to dictate to you what choices that you will make in your life, where you will live, the friends you will attract to yourself. Every last aspect of your life has come forth out of the perception that you are a body, separate from everyone else, that you live in this world, and this world is real. This world is constructed in separation, fear, and guilt. Therefore, if you perceive it as the real world, you must then attract to yourself that which mirrors what you are insisting on believing in. And yet, I say, week in and week out, I come forth in joy to abide with you. Not with your illusions, not your dreams, but the real you that is filled with power and light and goodness and love and capability and creativity, and you name it, you are it. If you name it, you will be it. What you decree, you become. So if I come forth in joy, I come forth from the kingdom of heaven, The kingdom of heaven itself must be a state, if you will, a quality, if you will, in which nothing can sneak in through the back door unless it is more joy. Does that make sense to you? If a limited thought emerges and comes and sneaks into the kingdom of heaven, heaven is no longer heaven. So who would want to be there anyway? Not I. If there is a trace of shadow in the kingdom of heaven, it's no longer heaven. If there is a doubt or feeling of psychological weakness, if that abides in heaven, then it is beneath who you are, and you might as well throw it away. It's no good to you. The kingdom of heaven is a state and a quality of such joyousness that what takes place is that the light that you are begins to vibrate at a higher and higher frequency until the things that arise in your world that seem to be limiting you don't even matter any longer. And that is extremely important, and that's what I want to speak with you about this evening. If when what you perceive as a limitation pops up in your life, rest assured it is coming forth to reveal to you that there is a shadow of perception, of thought, of feeling that is less than whole joyousness, if you will, that yet needs to be, shall we say, corrected within you. Now, the mind, through its habits, will look at the limitations that arise and believe that the limitation is real, and therefore will, in a sense, step the vibration down to match the vibration of the limitation so that you can do battle with it. Do you know what that feels like? It is called beating the head against a brick wall. Now, who is the builder? Who is the bricklayer? You are. Enlightenment, empowerment, whole joyousness, if you will, cannot begin until you are willing to accept total and complete responsibility for everything you see, everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do, but above all, everything you feel. Because the causative factor of what you feel and what you perceive is never outside of you. Well, surely that must be wrong. When the landlord raises the rent and I don't feel good, surely it is the act of the rent being raised that causes the feeling that I'm having. That is what the world will teach you and what it would ask you to believe. But remember, the perceptions of the world are just the opposite of the truth of the kingdom. Can you begin then to allow yourself to admit, to consider, that every feeling and every perception has no cause outside of you? Each time you believe that it does, you have chosen. You have decreed like a judge with a gavel. You have judged that the world outside of you is real and contains a power over you. That choice occurs nowhere, save within yourself, within the mind that you are, and it requires something quite fundamental. It requires that in that very moment you have set aside the remembrance of yourself as a great ray of light. You have given back your God-given power and have chosen an illusion to be your authority. So then, can you understand the great blessings of each moment? The Holy Spirit has already translated the world that has been brought forth in error, that you have gotten a little caught up with, into the very means whereby you can awaken from the dream of separation, re-identify with the light that you are, and therefore outshine everything that has represented the world to you. Every anger, every hurt, every fear, every limitation, every empty wallet, whatever it is, you can outshine it. You can actually change the whole picture because you are using your light to create the world that you see and have believed in. And what is the key that unlocks that? Joy. Joy is not just a word. It is not just a temporary feeling. Joy is something that you have complete control over 24 hours a day. It is a vibration. It is a frequency. And if you were to go into one of your laboratories and say to one of your scientists, well, show me the frequency and color of sadness, you could guess that it might be dark gray, and the frequency of love carries a quality of, shall we say, pink and light violets to it. The frequency of joy vibrates at a very high color, if you will, a vibrant, radiant, golden light that you can't even really tell if it's gold or white. It is a vibration. It is a frequency. It is a tangible reality. It is a real doodad, if you will, that floats with all the other doodads in the universe, and you can claim it as yours every time you choose to remember the truth. You can choose to open up the body even and literally draw the joy down through the crown of the head. You can draw it up through the soles of the feet. You can draw it in from the sides. It doesn't matter. That's just ritual. The point is, you are enacting your choice to remember the truth that you were born in joy, that you were created in joy, that you are sustained in joy, that joy is who and what you are. And out of joy comes the power to do all things, manifest all things, impact all things, change all things, heal all things, and to dance through all things. Joy. Joy is the key that unlocks the door. When you have indeed desired first the kingdom, and when your intention has been unwavering, and when you have learned to master the key of allowing in which you learn to forgive the world, to forgive yourself, to trust all things that arise so that you can begin to look at them with new eyes and learn how you are the creator of all that you have experienced. As the rest then into the safety of surrender, the Holy Spirit comes by with a little golden key and says, "Here is what you have been looking for. I couldn't give it to you earlier because you were too busy running around in small circles in the mind. But now that the mind of the world has been set aside, I can speak to you clearly, and I can deliver to you the key whereby you begin to translate the unhappy dreams that you may have created, or aspects of it, into a happy dream. A wholly happy dream in which perhaps relationships that have actually been what you would call in your language dysfunctional, quite an apt word, by the way, or harmful or limiting, you finally learn that it's okay to set them aside, that it's okay for you to choose joy. It's okay for you to choose to be happy. It's okay for you to be wealthy. It doesn't matter what it is, it's okay. And the key that unlocks it all is joy. So all you have to do when next you feel a little bit down is to sit here and say, "I am wholly joyous now." Then open your eyes, and if everything's the same, you can rest assured that the key of joy doesn't work. Some do that. They make a meager attempt. They make it from a mind that has been depressed, a body filled with toxins that has become tight and depressed. They make it from the foundation of the perception of the world. They give a thought to joy. Nothing changes overnight. So Jeshua must not know what he's talking about. And not only him, but I understand there have been a lot of masters around that have talked about joy, and they've all been wrong because I just proved it. If you have learned to not punch your joy button constantly, if it is at best become an intermittent thing, so that at times you choose to be joyous if the situation looks okay, and other times decide to hold on to judgment and thoughts of limitation and lack, if you have learned to do it that way, must it not follow that to re-identify with yourself as joy will also require the process of learning? We have talked about how the Holy Spirit translates a thing of time into the very means by which you may awaken. Therefore be thankful for the time that is given to you, for it is the means by which you will relearn how to not only press, but to hold your joy button until it holds itself. It is the means whereby the translation of an unhappy dream occurs so that a happy one replaces it. And as the dream becomes happy, what happens? Something that everybody knows. Anytime you feel relatively happy, you relax, you expand, you open, you become more creative. You feel more in tune, more alive. The cells of the body sing. That's why everybody likes being happy. The problem is that you have learned to believe that happiness is a conditional expression. That is, it depends on external circumstance. I will be happy when. And of course, when never comes. And if it arrives because you haven't learned how to be happy, you feel uncomfortable. And many of you know what that's like. Now that I have what I've been seeking, I can't quite be happy yet. Why? Because you forgot to practice being happy. Now joy then, and that is what we began last week with feeling joy. As you practice becoming the frequency of joy, something begins to happen. And all of you know this to some degree. It's just a matter of making it constant. When you choose to, shall we say, abide and to vibrate in the frequency of the light of joy that you are, no matter what is coming up around you, when you choose joy, when you draw the light in through the toes, through the fingernails, it doesn't matter, just do it. Let the body begin to vibrate. It will feel like the body is vibrating at any rate. Feel the light, feel the joy. It actually begins to blow the cobwebs out of the cells of the body and out of the mind in which you are already connected with me and with God, and with every mind that has ever awakened. Every master that has ever been is no further than a phone call away from within your mind. Many have said, "Gee, I haven't been trying, but I just can't hear you, Jeshua. Meditation doesn't go well. What's going on?" It's because there is static in the mind, like a cloudy day that blocks the sun. The sun that truly shines dwells within your heart now. Not one thing separates you from your right and your power to choose to dwell in the joy that is the presence of the light of the Son of God that dwells within your heart. As you choose the frequency and vibration, miracles accelerate. The picture that you have created, called your life, begins to vibrate a little, you see, because it always responds to the frequency that you are living in. You could say that the world is your perfect servant, and it will always show you exactly where your frequency is. As you choose that vibration, you could say that you begin to vibrate the molecules of matter. You begin to break up the old picture so that which does not resonate with the frequency of joy that you are choosing to live within, those things begin to have a few earthquakes. And if you are willing to allow them, they will drop out of your life. Now this is the big stumbling block, you see, because part of the mind is still attached to believing that its identity, its reality, is made up of the things outside of it. so that as you choose awakening, as you choose joy, all the little fears that you have been carrying begin to float to the surface, and you have a choice to make. Love or fear. Ever heard that before? The way is easy and without effort, and yet it takes you through the eye of the needle. The way is the way of love, and love is the expression of joy, a joy that must spill over into every dimension of your experience until every dimension of it mirrors to you the happy dream of your constant union with God. And then the world itself fades away. You transcend the world. There is a process to go through. It is a process that will take you from where you think you are to where you long to be. And the process requires that willingness to trust love to carry you beyond every fear that has ever limited you and ever made you believe that you can only be who you are now. Fear can arise when the things that you have constructed out of misperceptions, whether they be relationships, careers, whatever it is, if you have made it from the perspective of the ego, rest assured its foundation is a house built on sand, and it is going to crumble sooner or later. Your world, you see, is one which you are taught to strive, to struggle, to feel anxiety, to try to keep your creations on solid ground. You have many people, by the way, that are locked up in the mental institutions for no other reason than they see through the game of the ego, and they realize any such construction is made on foundation of sand. So what's the point? And they don't want to participate. Unfortunately, your world isn't quite ready to go to them and teach them another way, and so they are caught in what is called hell. Beloved friends, be of good courage. When you have truly relinquished every attempt to make and control your world, fear will arise, rest assured, but it is just to show you where you have been living, and just beyond it is the peace that you seek. And each time you choose joy, no matter what, you shall, as we say, pass an initiation would be one way to put it. You step to the next highest level, and a strength begins to come into you, a strength that shall indeed become like a mighty river of the things of this world, will not deter you from the path that would set before you and that you would choose to walk. The Holy Spirit requires enlightened and therefore empowered minds to join with it, with Him, in the translation of the whole of this world into a happy dream. Does it require strength? Indeed it does. Is it going to feel uncomfortable at times? Yes, to the degree that you try to hold on to whole habits, whether they be habits of diet, habits of thought, habits of relationships, habits of career. If you believe those things are keeping you safe, you are going to go through quite a struggle, because once you choose to awaken, that is like you have taken your finger out of the hole in the dam and the water begins to pour forth. First as a trickle, but eventually the power and the force of that water of joy, of truth and of light will break down the dam completely. If you resist that, you are going to feel fearful and believe that everything is crumbling to dust, and it is. And yet what crumbles is only an illusion, only something that is limited to Holy Son of God. If I walk with you, your way is certain, and fear need not master you. And the situations that are presented to you in your life are there so that you can recognize what you are now, as a soul choosing to overcome, to grow beyond. Stop trying to keep the things that limit you in place and give yourself wholly to the force of the water, that is the joy of the soul that would break the dam down so that the river can flow. The river of creativity, the river of joy, the river of eternal life that flows from the mind of God to and through the Son of God, to be demonstrated and spilled over into this world. I can never make the choice for you, never. I can only whisper to you. I can only come to you. I can only abide with you, the truth in you, and I can tell you that it's safe. It's safe to let the false constructs dissolve from your mind. It is safe and it is necessary, and if you would receive it, contemplate what this means. It is inevitable. I have said many times that freedom does not mean, free will does not mean, that you can choose whether or not to take a certain curriculum. You are only free to decide when you are going to take it. And the reluctance of the mind to truly take the course, live it and master it, the curriculum, is that part of the mind that wishes summer vacation could at least last a little bit longer. But all the time you think you are enjoying your summer vacation, you are not really getting anywhere, and it takes a resolve, desire, and attention which, whatever it takes, you finally voice within yourself. No, I'm not going to tolerate error in myself any longer under any circumstance. I am that Holy Son of God, and joy is my birthright in my kingdom, and I'm going to be that, and if it kills me, good. There is a strength in you, a strength you haven't even begun to touch, a strength that when embraced will indeed dismantle every limitation that you believed exists in your life, and the right use of that strength rests on your willingness and your determination to choose joy always. You see, when you get into your automobile and you leave your humble abode, and you are about to go off to what you call a job, Interesting concept. You're not going to a job at all. You are only choosing to go what you have chosen to construct out of the infinite freedom of the molecules of physicality. You are an artist, and you have painted a picture for yourself to abide within. What you are really doing is getting into your automobile. That is a temple in which you have 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is that you have painted for yourself in which to practice being the presence of joy. That's the curriculum, and it's presented to you in every moment. Every moment that you step forward into is a precious and holy temple in which you have the opportunity to choose fear or love. And you will know if you have chosen the door labeled fear, because you might feel tired, sad, confused, depressed. And you will know if you have chosen the door marked joy, that comes from choosing love. Because you see, if you are in your automobile, if you are making breakfast, if you are paying bills, it doesn't matter what you are doing. It's not going to matter because it itself is part of the dream that is being translated. And it is your willingness to abide in joy that will allow you to heal every limited thought that you have ever had. And each limited thought has been made manifest as the nemesis of problems that come to your life. It's all a result of a lack of joy. Can it be that simple? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Joy is an incredible thing, an incredible blessing. Every time you choose to be wholly joyous, rest assured you have decided not to identify with the ego. And remember, you are asked to do only one thing, to live as though you are not an ego. Every time a judgment slips through the mind and is projected into someone, oops, I misidentified. Take it back, burn it up, laugh, and get on with joy. Joy is like a light, like a fire that purifies the mind, that purifies the body. And why is that necessary? Because your Father longs to have you join him as a co-creator and an awakened, healed mind. Such a mind's creations are always loving, always expansive, always healing. The creation of an awakened mind seems to attract other minds to it like moths to a light bulb, and that is exactly what is happening. Your Father longs to pour forth the fullness of his power and creativity through you, but if you've closed yourself off so tight that only a trickle comes through, just enough to keep the body alive, is there any wonder that there is lack mirrored to you in your life? Now some will say, well, I'm a pretty happy guy. I live in a high state of joy most of the time. Notice the word most, and understand that if there's anything in the world that you are still judging, still fearful of, still condemning, whether it be your monetary system, your government, your school, your mass transit system, garbage strikes, whatever it is, if you are judging it, you are blocking off the flow of joy that would transform the whole of your life. I have said often to you, become wholly outrageous. And outrageous requires joy. Joy. Has anyone dropped the bag off their shoulder underneath one of your lights at the intersection this week? Why not? I don't have the courage. Beloved friend, when you can say to me, I didn't have the bag, indeed, what I am seeking to share with you is that the world you have dreamed into being, with all of its complexities, including the body, is really no big deal. It's quite harmless and holds no power over you. Each time you see something that seems to be a limitation, realize you are just looking at the boundary of your mind that you have chosen for yourself. Now there's a great power in that, because if you recognize the boundary of your mind, but you know that what you really want is joy, you can choose to walk through that ring of fear, whatever it is. And just like stretching a muscle, the boundary expands. And as the boundary expands, more joy flows from the mind of God through you, more creative ideas and more responsibility. Damn, I was hoping to get rid of that. Do you see how the world would teach you to fantasize about winning a lottery so that you could be irresponsible? Isn't that true? So you won't have any worries. Worries are only the refusal to assume responsibility. And yet, paradoxically, when you join with me in being willing to assume responsibility for the atonement, for the whole of creation, whew, now there is an 80-hour job week. Paradoxically, your joy becomes full and you rest in what is eternal. For when you have expanded the boundaries of your mind to allow joy to be the fountain in which you swim always, and when the deep part of the mind within you, that is the mind of Christ, says, all of creation is arising within me. This is my doing. Therefore, I'm going to heal it, and I'm going to correct it, and I assume responsibility for the whole of the world, without jumping ahead to how you are going to take care of that. Then the Father pours forth into you the power and the wisdom and the light and the life to achieve your goal of healing the whole of creation and completing the atonement. First things first, this temple, the body, is the means whereby it is given unto you to extend love, and love can only radiate from a mind that is wholly joyous. Now, you all know that when you are in the presence of someone that is not wholly joyous, you are not quite as attracted to them. Isn't that true? The body deserves your love, not because it's your home, but because it is your tool. And when you abide with only loving thoughts, you will find that such things as diet, all those of habit that you have, begin to naturally correct themselves. As you come to love the body by resting in the joy that is within you, you will indeed find miracles, for you will be attracted to new ways of being in which the body itself. And that's a very important step, not one to be rationalized away by saying, well, all I need to do is to zap myself with a little light and nothing really hurts it. Are you sure? If you are not sure, be honest with yourself and take steps to correct what you are putting into it. The body, this thing that starts here at the head and ends up at your toes, is like a transmitter and a receiver. As you choose to tune it up, it becomes capable of radiating higher frequencies of joy. As you choose the frequency of joy, the desire to tune up the tool naturally grows. That's step one. And step two is to realize that no one is responsible for your thoughts save you. No one can change them. No one can heal them. No one is responsible for causing them but you. At first, that seems to be a bit of a bummer because it means indeed accepting total responsibility. Complete responsibility without an excuse, without claiming victimhood. And yet, claiming that responsibility is what empowers you. It empowers you to be willing, finally, to be able to choose to be wholly joyous. And as you begin to tune into that frequency, and you get a little bit of a shockwave going, wow, that was nice. Should I try it again? Oh, why not? And you open up and you say, Father, I'm ready. Just pour it down through me. I dare you to overwhelm me. He'll try. He loves to try to do that. And then next the little shockwave goes. Oops, well, that was nice too. And I didn't even need another body to get it. I didn't need to go to the movies. I didn't need to win the lottery. What caused it? My God, I did. No causative factor outside of my desire, my willingness to feel joy. And the more and more and more that you tune to that frequency, you will find that your Father's cup overflows and never stops flowing, and every moment can become more joyful than the one before. And who cares what the circumstances are? As you tune into the frequency, the life that you have been living will begin to shift and change. Just remember that you are like a painter who takes a look at the color and says, well, that's not quite right. I'm going to erase it. And a new color will come. And with that new color might be new friends, might be a new career. You might find yourself getting up at 3 a.m. for prayer and meditation. You might find a desire to discipline yourself just a little bit more. Oh God, Jeshua was talking about responsibility and discipline tonight. I knew I should have gone to the movies. Responsibility is what makes your joy full. Please remember that. Responsibility for the whole of creation is what will make your joy full. Discipline? The terrible art of loving yourself? You have a statement regarding the improper use of some substances that seems to change the biochemistry of the body, drugs. The statement is, just say no. Discipline is the art of loving yourself, truly loving yourself, and saying no, when you can tell that to say yes will be to compromise your frequency of joy. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Rest assured, if you practice that simple little test of never saying yes to something that compromises your frequency of joy, you will be in for a surprise. Because what will be revealed to you is how many times in each day you do compromise your joy. Know you what is called the rat race. Know you what is called conflict. Like you keep trying to get out of it, but your feet keep getting stuck more in it. It comes because to some degree you compromise your joy, and then the soul within you becomes sad. And when you become sad, your frequency drops and you find yourself butting the head against the wall because you yet believe that the wall keeps you safe somehow. It stops you from growing. It stops you from becoming more. It stops you from stepping into the arenas you thought you could never perform well in. The brick wall is your limitation, and it keeps you in hell, pure and simple. It keeps you from heaven. It keeps you from the power to effectively deal with complete responsibility. Joy, for those of you that were with us last week, do you remember what that felt like last week? Joy. Did you practice evoking that in yourself in the week that followed? Or did you only think of it as a memory and go, well, that was nice. I hope we can do that again. Do you see how the pattern in your mind is the very pattern that must become disciplined? If you truly loved yourself, your desire to drink in joy would become constant and primary, and you simply would not tolerate in yourself any willingness to make any other choice, no matter what. Talk about an addictive drug. Don't say no to it. Say yes. Say yes. I want you so badly to come to where I am. I want you to so badly to give up your dreams of suffering, pain, and lack. I want you so much to realize the love that the Father has for you. that is poured forth and shaken down around you so thoroughly that you can't even comprehend it. The mind could never comprehend the love of God, but the heart can become an open valve through which it can flow. Your life is worthy of reconstruction in what you desire, and I say this unto you and those of you that have perhaps studied my Course in Miracles. Rest assured that if you are truly getting it, if the atonement is beginning to stir within you, you are going to eventually have to come face to face to the fact that peace isn't just mental gymnastics. The healing of the mind must necessarily affect the healing of how you are in this world. That changes how you are in the world, it must. And if that is occurring within you, certain things that you have constructed in your life are going to start to feel like a prison to you. Now, what happens is that the mind says, well, it's reality, so I'll conform myself to it, instead of letting your joy and your peace and your love burst the walls of it so that you can grow into something higher, more radiant, so that more and more light can be entrusted to you to flow through you. In short, what I am talking about here is don't fool yourself. Don't rationalize it away. Face it head on and admit it. If there is some aspect of your life that is not working, get straight with yourself. Nobody is doing it but you. And all around you is the power to effect change because the power is within you. What is one of the simplest ways of knowing whether or not you are allowing yourself to flow with joy? Your heart's desire, not the ego's desire, the heart's desires. If you feel frustration or limitation in any aspect of your life, it means that there is something yet within your perception that you have been fearful of turning to look at head on. And until you do so, you will never heal it, never. The same limitation will be made manifest to you in another 1,000 lifetimes. That's just the way it is. Of course, the mind says, who thought up this game? This doesn't sound like fun to me. Can't there be another way out? No. You created the game. You are the Milton Bradleys of creation. Life is one great big Monopoly game. You designed it. You bought and constructed the house in which you live, and that house is your mind. And its foundation is the amount of joy you are willing to open yourself up to, and the degree which you are willing to let that joy pour forth through your life to burst out through the limitations that you might experience, until your joy so far outshines the world that finally the perception is healed. The light goes on and you finally realize, wait a minute, the Monopoly game can't contain my light. And you would put away every last trace of need to try to conform yourself to the physical world. And then you will come to where I am and abide in unlimitedness, given unto you in the very moment that our Holy Father thought you into being as a perfect image of himself. Become unlimited. Choose to become powerful, and it will look differently to everyone. It doesn't mean that you are all going to become billionaires and run for president on the independent party ticket. But it does mean that you'll get straight with yourself and realize that there is some friction causing unhappiness in your life. Then you know there's a limit there, a limitation. You will turn and face it head on and declare that you are no longer willing to tolerate it because it does not befit the Holy Son of God. Honesty begets responsibility. The choice of responsibility begets discipline, and discipline begets the return to joy, and joy completes the atonement in you, indeed. So I hope that in this brief hour so far I have perhaps been able to shed light on a few things, to give you a few thoughts to chew upon. I mean what I said when I said that my way is easy without effort, the willingness to live an unlimited life filled with power and grace, beauty and creativity and effectiveness, the willingness to learn, to change whatever habits of perception and thought and behavior you are carrying that are limiting you. The choice to live that kind of life really doesn't require any effort. What requires effort is the resistance to that life, because it is a resistance to the overwhelming river of joy that longs to pour forth through you, to rebirth you. Being in the world is what takes effort. The mind has simply gotten it confused. So cut loose and go for it. Cut loose and be willing to use each day to face your limitations head on, to love them, to embrace them, and to transcend them. And you will know when you have transcended them, because they won't emerge any longer. A simple law of creation. And remember, it's a law written on a card resting on a Monopoly board that you created in your office and that you have sold to yourself. You've made up all the rules, even the rules of mastery, and the mind has conveniently laid them aside. I call you this evening to join with me in, shall we say, a bit of a new direction in our time together. I call you to join with me in learning how to express the mastery that you are. All that has transpired and all that we've done to this point is to shake things up a bit and find out who really wants to get on with it. While I extend my love to everyone, I cannot force myself on any mind that I cannot give what gifts I would bring to anyone who chooses not to put them into action. And if you happen to have some friends who love to talk about unlimitedness and mastery, ask them if they are really ready for it. For what we are going to begin in this evening, if you will, a progressive experience of bringing mastery into manifestation. But it will require your diligence and your complete commitment. It will require that you support one another and love one another. It will require that you set aside the whole of the world wherever you happen to be and choose joy. So right now, in your own way, go inside your own heart. Let the body relax and just breathe into the heart. And when you are ready, ask yourself with complete honesty, am I really willing to take the curriculum now? And if as you seek to answer the question, you see fears coming up, you see questions come up that say, well, if I could only look ahead, I might be able to make a decision. Rest assured that part of you really isn't quite ready, and that's okay. The atonement requires finders and not seekers. The healing of mankind requires finders and not seekers. It requires masters, not those who say, well, gee, I'd like to master it all, but gosh, I have so many other things to do. Those other things are there because you have resisted your own mastery to some degree in some way. To borrow a phrase that recently came up into the mind of my beloved brother, when you are willing to learn what you know you don't yet know, mastery is only a blink away. Interesting thought, don't you think? And take it another step further. When you are willing to learn what you couldn't even possibly learn that you don't know, that is called willingness. Now, in your language, it sounds a bit funny, but the same thing was posed to me by this one who was my father. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, son, you've picked an interesting one. Quite a drama that you have scripted. And I looked at him and said, what are you talking about? And he said, oh, I think you'll discover what I'm talking about all in good time. And in his own way, he asked me the same question. Are you willing to admit that there just might be something that you don't know, and you don't even know that you don't know it? Are you willing to learn? And something in me, God only knows what, said, yes, I am. And that made all the difference in my own life and the completion of the atonement within me. And I like to think it's made some difference in the world, just as your choice will make all the difference in the completion of your own atonement, and therefore we will also make a difference in the world, Well, that was fun. How are you all doing? Fine, great. Has any of this made a bit of sense? Yes. Look around you for a moment, fellow travelers, desirous of mastering the only curriculum that needs to be learned. There are many ways to approach it, but until you accept that to learn that curriculum must mean that the structure of your life around you becomes wholly and radically changed, and that will mean something different to each of you even now. You really haven't quite yet been willing to learn the curriculum, no matter how many texts you have read, no matter how many years you've memorized, no matter how many prayers you've said, some part of you has not quite been willing to become vulnerable. And yes, I would tell the Pope the same thing. Jeshua, how do you make yourself vulnerable? How do you make yourself vulnerable? Choosing joy. But remember, Firewalker, it's not just thought. It's a feeling of power that literally wells up, vibrates the cells of your body, so you can't contain it. It's not quite the same thing as what you experience as ecstatic happiness that seems to take you to a crescendo, and then you've burned out afterwards. That's not quite what I'm talking about. This joy is a frequency that you can really feel vibrating, and it can become constant, and you can learn to master it so that you can walk around, albeit a few inches off the ground, and you'll find that you will be able to function even in that frequency. Certain things begin to emerge within that frequency. Your ability, for instance, to be in this world and yet to be totally with me, in total communication with me or any master you want to be, becomes available. No separation between you and myself whatsoever. The ability to tune in to see how your friends are doing on the other side of the planet and to know what they are doing all becomes quite natural. Where to go, who to talk to, it all becomes an effortless flow. Joy is like a fire and a frequency that burns off all the cobwebs, gets rid of all the static, clarifies the mind of Christ. And if you don't feel it down to the cells in your body, you don't know yet what it is. Does that help a little bit? It helps. So at first the idea comes to mind, I choose joy, or I choose to come from love. But the body isn't healing yet, and whatever is going on is heaviness. My mind will actually make the statement, I and my Father are one. Then what's the next step after the statement is made? The desire is there, but the body is feeling heavy, whatever the reason. What is the reason? The only thing I can think of is because I don't want it. For some reason, I don't want it, and I'm blocking it, and I'm scared of it at some level. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that fear gets projected outside of yourself. You become fragmented, thinking the thing you fear is something outside of you. The fear is that what is within you. The next step beyond the words, and I've given you many, many cues, is to become outrageous, play, sing, and dance. Get a new motion going in the body. Get a little crazy. Do things you've never done before. Interrupt the patterns of the mind. Ask the Holy Father to overwhelm you. It is fine and well and good to begin by saying, I and my Father are one. Isn't that a great thought? But I'm depressed. Now the next stage, Firewalker, is to learn to find ways to evoke joy even in the body. You know some ways, but I am talking about some others here in which you truly begin to create a frequency. And we are going to do a little bit of that in a few moments. But it must be felt. It must get to the point where you can turn the frequency on no matter what. Know you that which is Reiki or the hands-on healing. It's just a dimension of letting some rays of joy enter the field of another's mind. They think it's entering their body. It just enters the mind. The body follows suit. You've already allowed it to enter the field of the mind, but you are keeping the trapdoor closed if it doesn't pour forth into the cells of the body. Eventually, no matter what, you can turn it on and you won't turn it off. That's the next stage, and there is indeed, as you well know, a part of you that's a little reluctant to be overwhelmed with joy. A part of you yet carries a sadness that you unwittingly yet identify with. Not as much as in the past, it's lessening, but it's there. And so when you speak joyous words, I and my Father are one. I choose love and not fear. It's almost like you tune into up here, the head, but there is a heaviness down here in the heart, and there seems to be a gap between the two. What we are talking about now is really being willing to close the gap, to erase what is down here that blocks the downward descent of joy. Indeed, so Firewalker, are you ready to give it a shot? Ready to go for it? Fine, come here. Why did you get out of your chair so slowly? Well, I have a sore back. Now, what I want you to do is clap your hands 3 times as loudly as you can. He claps. Get into it. Now pick what an old friend of mine would call a goddess. Pick a goddess. Now dance. Get into it. Let's go. I'm not a dancer. Yes, you are. That's a perception. Addressing the others. Clap for him. Let go. Come on. The group claps and the 2 dance in front of the room. Shout for joy, Firewalker. I don't hear you. Shout your joy. Joy, joy, joy. Yes, yes. Clapping, dancing, and shouting continue. Okay, all right. Now, thank you, Goddess. Thank you, Goddess. You are welcome. Now, Firewalker, how did that feel? A little spooky at first. A little fear came up. Am I doing it right? And then I got more response from people. I felt like saying yes with me in joy. It felt better and more at one with the group. In other words, you felt safer. I felt safer, yes. That's a good way to put it. Yes, it's a good way to put it. Now, listen. When I first asked you to dance, what did you say? In my mind, I don't know. Give them a moment here. What? I am asking them to give you a moment so that you can just rest and ask yourself to look back to that moment and what statement did you make? To myself I said no or something like that. Some block came up, an embarrassment or something. What did he say? I'm not a dancer. You said I'm not a dancer. Well, did I say that? Oh my goodness, where did that come from? That is what you said. I don't even know I said that. Now this is very, very, very important, and once again this man, Firewalker, has earned his nickname. Firewalker, do you see how I created a set of circumstance that evoked an old perception that expressed itself for this moment in the statement, I'm not a dancer? What the sun decrees is. You see, I pulled a little bit of a fast one on you. You didn't know it was coming, so you couldn't prepare. And the truth came up, the perception you hold, I'm not a dancer. Now dancing isn't just a god and a goddess shaking their bags of dust around. Dancing is what life requires, you see. When you say I'm not a dancer, it doesn't have anything to do with how you move your feet and all of that. Nobody is holding a placard with the little numbers up on them. Besides, God has a placard and he always gives you a 10. Do you see what I'm saying here? I do. It means that the perception, that's the sadness inside, for you, Firewalker, have carried that belief I'm not a dancer. And you are a dancer. You just proved it. I thought he did rather well. Yes. Indeed, now the dancing goddess. Did you enjoy it? I felt a little self-conscious at first, but I got over it. Exactly. Could you feel how this energy state changed? That is, as he began to get into it, you also began to get into it. Yes, it helped me. Yes, and there's the key. Firewalker, you just extended love. You chose to begin to set aside a perception that said, I am not a dancer. And yes, it required the support of those who love you to give you the safety to begin to relearn a different perception of yourself. And as you extended that out, your frequency raised and it affected the frequency of the goddess. That's how love is extended, and that is what brings healing to the world. Do you see? Yes. Firewalker, are you willing to become a dancer? Well, very much so. It wasn't so bad, was it? Now I know some of you are going. Boy, I'm glad he didn't pick me. When you can't wait to get picked on, the end of the journey comes much more quickly. What I want to give unto you now, I'm not necessarily done for the evening here, but I want to give unto you what you might call a bit of a homework. Contemplate what just took place with Firewalker and allow yourself freedom, total safety. Imagine that this group of friends is with you all week long. Imagine yourself to rest in the safety just like Firewalker did. And let yourself take a look within at the ways in your own life in which you might be making the same statement to yourself. The ways in any given day in which you refuse to be a dancer, the things that seem to evoke fear, that depress you and conform you and close your light down. Allow yourself to look at them. Not to make a judgment, that's not what it's about. The Holy Son of God is far beyond judgment. But just look at that and then choose one of these ways, and you'll find more than just one that will pop up. Within the next week's time, create a situation that seems to evoke that and make a different choice. Find a way to become a dancer in that circumstance. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily stand on a street corner and dance, although that's a good one. Become creative at looking at your life. It may be the way in you try to communicate to your spouse. It may be the way in which you refuse to take care of yourself and find a way to dance, a way to evoke the feeling of, yes, this is rather nice, I'm loving myself. Because that is what Firewalker really just did. He loved himself enough to dance. He said, the heck with the perception that seems to block me. I'm going to dance. And the day will come, you see, when Firewalker dances all the time, and he won't really care if we are all around to support him in safety. He'll dance no matter what the world says, and that is mastery and freedom. So fair enough. Do you understand the assignment? Does it make any sense to everyone? Yes. Indeed so, Firewalker? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for all your love, your teaching, and support. Teaching and love and support are totally meaningless unless someone receives it. It is received. Thank you. I know indeed. So you see, we are going to be having some assignments as we go down the path. Some will seem to challenge you as you've never been challenged before, but not until you are ready for them. That's all you need to do this week. Become willing to look at the ways in your own life that you are refusing to dance and find a way to make a different choice. It could be as simple as how you feel when you walk in the door of your place of employment. You might choose to skip through the door, kiss your little time card, smile at the supervisor, and say, "What an incredible day." It may be something that simple, but you begin to interrupt what has become a chronic and unwitting and unaware pattern in your mind, because that unaware pattern is what has been telling you that the world out there is really real. And it's not. It's an illusion. It's all done with mirrors. So I indeed love you, and in you is the worthiness of the Holy Son of God to choose anew, to choose empowerment, to choose awakening, to find the small and little ways that perhaps seem big, in which you are yet blocking that light from flowing through your life. Will it feel like dying? Oh yes, thank God for that. Death is the most incredibly beautiful creation you've ever come up with. The death of the ego, the death of the small self, the death of all illusion. Oh my God, what a beautiful and glorious sight. So go ahead and die a little this week, that the joy in you might become full, and the life in you might shine forth. And that life and the light will be the means by which the atonement is completed on earth as it is in heaven. Be at peace in all things, and know, it's not serious. Sing, laugh, dance, play. Indeed, peace be unto you. Amen. So ends Joy Part 2.